Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ted Ohl. I am with AcoustaCorp, and the product that we've developed and entered is called the acouPoP. It is a portable variable acoustic banner. It's based on the technology that we developed with the AcouStack, which is a motorized variable acoustic banner, the point of which is to allow design professionals to take a given space and enhance its variable use. For example, you can design a space that is extremely reverberant for a lovely sounding string quartet, but then when you have a film festival or jazz festival, amplified music, or a drama performance where you need a shorter reverberation time, you deploy our banners and reduce the reverberation time of the room. What's really very special about the products that we have developed is that we've actually gone to the trouble of doing some an exhaustive level of independent testing of the product. The chart here looks very complicated because what you're actually seeing is 33 different test conditions in which we've taken the banner design and varied the height of the segments, varied the width of the segments, varied the fabric, varied the density of the cell closures, to basically explore what happens if you change the construction of the banner. And we found that indeed there are quite an interesting variety of absorption coefficients that are created, some of which actually greater than 100%, but that's caused essentially by what acousticians call edge conditions, in which you have absorption occurring inside the three-dimensional portion of the banner. What we did, though, is we exhibited this very banner at a bunch of different trade shows, Acoustic Engineering Society being the main among them, and had a lot of fellows come along with guitars strapped to their backs and say, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could take that banner, flip it around on its base, so we could throw it into a road box and take it with us to the shopping mall or the library or the classroom or any other sort of place that we might have a performance ad hoc and we need to control the acoustics of the space. The other people who came up to us with great interest were film producers who would love to not have to redub the performers or the actors' dialogue in a room, a location in which they needed to control the space. Basically, the way that this portable unit works, it comes in a party road box. You put on a top plate to secure it and simply lift the banner into place. And what you have is a 6-inch variety of the acoustic banner that you could set into place, comes a rolling box with wheels, and you saw that big chart before. You take this chart here, I've highlighted the 2 test conditions that match this construction of the banner, one of which is if you have it about 15 inches away from the wall. That gives you very good bass absorption. And the other is if you just have it in more of the center of a room, which gives it much better high-end absorption. So that's, I think I've pretty much used up my time. Are there any questions involved?
No, you've got a couple of minutes.
I do have a couple more minutes. Yes?
Given that the data you've got there is very impressive and very technical, which is fine for your sort of high-end acoustician, given that this is aimed at very much, you've said you're, I'm trying to think of the polite word to put it, but sort of inexperienced person. Right. Do you have some very simple guidance notes on how to use it when they are in the classroom, the shopping mall, whatever, because you're not dealing with an acoustician?
Well, that's a good point, because we are very careful not to pose ourselves as being acousticians. We are a manufacturer who's created a product and the data for designers to use. What you pointed out is something, though, that we should respond to, in the sense that I need to sit down with an acoustician to develop just such a package, because that would be useful for musicians to have, so that they know if you put 3 of these in a room like this, you're going to have this performance change. Exactly. Right.
This design obviously comes in a flight case.
Yes.
Yeah. Can it go on an uneven floor or a sloped floor like a rake?
It can go, as long as it's not too great, because we have a top stabilizer. So it is quite rigid. So I would have to tip it to see just how far it could go, but I would think you could get close to 10 degrees before. And uneven, as long as it's, this has got, underneath here, there's a beam that it runs across and is also strapped to hold this down. It's very important for this fabric to be held in tension. That's one of the things that does absorb the sound. We've tested this product in a number of different ways, one of which was to just take and hang two pieces of fabric at a certain distance apart, and then we also put them under tension. And just like a drum, it does make a difference in terms of its sound absorption. It absorbs more energy when it's got a bit of tension to it.
And obviously if you're using multiple ones, looking at the case at the bottom, you obviously can't put them close to close. With
Correct.
a gap between them, does that make a big difference acoustically?
It doesn't. Actually, let's drop this back down, if that's all right. Some of the test conditions that we did here in studying the chart, because of the edge conditions, how do you get more than 100% absorption? The acoustician said that it was because of the edge conditions. So then the next question was, all right, if you change that distance, does it make any difference? So we did document what that difference is. I can't answer your question directly, but I can say that the data is available to see what happens if you change the distance, if you have these a certain distance apart, as opposed to if you had a given wall of them. From what I recall from my review of the data, it's a very insignificant difference, actually.
Is there anything particularly environmentally friendly about the materials you've chosen, the processes and manufacturing you've chosen?
In the terms of the manufacturing processes, no, but this is 100% wool that is permanently flame resistant, so it is a completely natural fabric.
And
this is aluminum. The base is wood. This will always be an aluminum frame of some design because it needs it for the rigidity.
Is it recycled?
This is not recycled aluminum, but it certainly could be. No reason not to be. I'm sorry.
How high can you go?
Really not more than about 6 feet because the whole point of it is to be able to do it by hand. So it's as it is, it's rather difficult for one person to do.
But I mean, I'm looking around at some very high rigged pieces of acoustic damping. Does this actually do the job? Can you achieve what you need within 6 foot height? Is this big enough to actually work?
For the purpose of this specific device, yes, because you're usually dealing with a seated musician or a single musician in a relatively confined space.
Right.
That device, the motorized AcoustaC, has been built as much as 15 meters wide by 12 meters tall, so that can be built to fill those large spaces. That's the point of a larger device. We're also working on this design being one that comes out of a larger box. It's probably 3 meters wide, that you can rig a couple of chain hoists and pick up a piece that's perhaps 5 meters tall. Right. We're a step away from that.
I'm a lighting designer, so I know nothing about acoustics, but I'm looking at, normally sound designers like to, like lots of heavy drapes, and I'm just wondering if this is actually, there's obviously a lot of engineering gone into something quite small. Does it actually achieve anything? But if you're saying yes, then how much is it?
This has a retail price of just about $1,000 US.
One more to the framework.
Oh, I'm sorry. The framework basically, this piece removes and one way or another comes down. And these pieces simply pop out. They fold at this hinge and go into the box.
Just along next to the side of the fabric.
Sorry? Right, just alongside next to the fabric is there's space here on each side inside here.
Do you have any concerns with those actual metal objects damaging that fabric?
I think that it's important to. It naturally stacks outside of the rails, but in terms of packing it, it's a good idea to go through and probably dress it out here. There's a bit of work to be done there.